If you're like most people these days, you're probably experiencing more change and loss in your life than ever before, right? Along with a whole lot more uncertainty. The challenges for all of us do seem to be getting more and more intense lately as the Earth continues to rise ever higher in frequency, bringing to the surface all the darkness that can no longer remain here, both within us and out in the world. And it certainly doesn't seem as if life is going to get any more certain or peaceful or predictable in the coming year either. There are so many unknowns and dire predictions about what may be occurring in 2024. So if you're feeling especially vulnerable and insecure at times, it's no wonder. And if you happen to feel like something's wrong with you when you feel this way, or that you're somehow lagging behind and might not be ascending at all because so many negative things seem to be happening for you, know that you are actually responding rather sanely to all that's happening. There's nothing wrong with you. You're probably just experiencing a sped up version of ascension clean-out at this time. The ascension energies that are now flooding the earth are stirring up all the unresolved traumas and low-frequency beliefs still caught within you in order to release them. This is just part of the ascension process, but it can sometimes be really challenging. So, how can you learn to ride these energies that seem to just blow through you at times with as much ease and comfort as possible? How can you feel less vulnerable and insecure while it's happening? Well, first there's something you can become aware of that can be really helpful. And that's that the ascension energies operate in two very different ways. You can discover that at the same time that they're compelling you to let go of old limiting patterns and behaviors and beliefs that you can't take with you to the fifth dimension. They are also simultaneously opening you up to an expansion and freedom that you've never experienced before. And this is really exciting. But both of these processes are sometimes happening at once. So it can be a tricky and confusing kind of dance you have to learn. Shifting back and forth from one state of mind of facing intense challenges to another one of discovering and allowing the newfound expansive freedom and awareness that's coming into your life. But when you can see how both processes are necessary for ascension, it makes it a little easier. In fact, you may discover that if you're experiencing a whole lot of loss and change in your life, you're probably also experiencing at times really beautiful new states of awareness and uplifting experiences of greater awakening to who you are as well. Think about it for a moment. Hasn't this been happening for you, even despite all the difficult stuff that's been going on in your life? And you may find that you somehow seem to be able to access feelings of love and inner peace and laughter a lot more easily than in the past. And have you noticed the ascension energies do seem to come in waves? And so the ascension dance has pauses in it when everything seems to calm down and smooth out for a while before the next wave appears. It's good to remember this because during these times, you have the opportunity to relax and breathe for a bit and begin integrating both the difficult and the exciting things that have been occurring for you. Something else you may realize is that if your mood does grow gloomy, it's harder to stay in that state of mind than it used to be. You may even find that the negative emotions you're experiencing aren't quite as dense or powerful as they once were. And it's surprisingly easier now to shift your attention to something positive or pleasurable. In fact, sometimes even in the middle of a painful situation, you may suddenly experience a powerful moment of pure joy that wafts through out of nowhere, or feel your heart well up with gratitude for something. It can be really bizarre how this happens. You may also find that it's easier to recognize that your depressed mood has to do with the story you're telling yourself about what's happening in your life. And that you can just as easily tell yourself another more positive story. Or maybe no story at all. It's all a lot simpler to do these things with these new energies that are streaming onto the planet now. There's an opportunity to experience a great deal more freedom and empowerment and joy, even when you're going through all that difficult stuff. So there's another thing you can become aware of when you begin feeling vulnerable and insecure, and you're attempting to find familiar, safe ground to stand on. And that is to become aware of how you go about attempting to feel secure and safe in life. For example, you may find yourself experiencing anxiety because your feeling of security used to come from maybe a marriage or a partnership that has now dissolved. Or it was a secure bank account that's now been depleted. Or maybe a loving family member or friend who is no longer around, or some other external loss that you've experienced. And so now you feel adrift in a sea of change, with nothing secure to hold on to. When these kinds of things disappear from your life, you have the opportunity to discover something really important. And that is that your only true security comes from within you. It doesn't originate from anything outside of you. And often, for you to finally discover this truth, all outer supports you mistakenly thought were keeping you safe will disappear, at least for a while, just so you'll finally learn that you need to go within yourself to find that security. So what does that mean exactly? It means becoming aware that you will often have the choice of two different approaches to finding a sense of peace and security in life. The more third-dimensional choice of focusing on survival, and the fifth-dimensional choice of focusing on trust. The focus on survival in this context doesn't just mean, getting your food and shelter and other material needs met. It refers to a usually unconscious approach to life in general, in which you may be trying to stay in control of everything in your life. There's a belief that you'd better make sure everything going on in your life is in place, under your control, or maybe you won't survive. You better have enough money, which may mean a reliable job or money in the bank or a close relationship with someone who will support you. And also good relationships to feel emotional support when you need it. Again, the important thing to realize is that when you're in the mode of survival, you are looking outside yourself for all you need. You're using your limited third-dimensional mind to determine how you're going to survive here on the planet. And although this can sound like a rational and obvious approach, it can keep you in a low-level, continuous state of anxiety, especially as you come to realize in the end that you may at times have very little control over your outer conditions. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with setting up these outer supports. When you can, it's good to have as practical a plan as you can at that level. It's just that if you start there, fueled by your sense of anxiety and lack, it will not ultimately work because your anxious frequency is too low to create true security and safety. As you move towards fifth dimensional consciousness, you're going to find that you need to let go of this limited approach to creating a sense of emotional safety and security. You'll find that your belief that your needs are going to be met by things and situations you've set up outside yourself and by people you've brought into your life isn't working very well anymore. If you're strongly attached to believing that these things are responsible for your sense of safety and survival, like I say, you'll probably be given the opportunity to find out that they are not. So, what you need to do instead is to start first with focusing inwardly and begin raising your frequency to one of trust and confidence in your connection to Source. And then, from that frequency, doing what comes to you naturally to create outer circumstances that will further add to your sense of security. You raise your frequency first, and then you make outer plans that emanate from that frequency. If, for example, you lose your job, or your life savings, or an important relationship, know that it is this dynamic that may be what is operating. You are being guided to learn to focus on trust for your sense of security. So, when an outer support is taken away from you, instead of panicking, you may need to drop inside yourself and align with the trust that you will find the means of survival in other ways. Perhaps in ways that'll bring you an even greater sense of security and freedom. The answer is to look first within yourself for your connection to Source to find your sense of safety. Now, whether you do this through taking time to meditate, or going out in nature, or maybe doing some physical exercise, or whatever it is for you that gives you that feeling of being connected to Source, it doesn't matter. The focus is to do something that helps you feel this connection and to tune into your higher self, your multidimensional self that is connected to Source, and to trust that it is taking care of you. You need to learn to trust that this higher aspect of you knows exactly what it's doing in bringing about changes in your life, including the losses that initially seem really painful. It's important to understand that the things you are losing are likely essential for you to lose, so as to prepare you for entering the the fifth dimension. Remember, there are no mistakes occurring in your ascension process. You are being guided really carefully now. Just keep trusting this, and you'll see. You'll be able to make it safely through all the chaos that will likely be increasing in the year ahead of us. And you will be all the more ready for the shift into 5D when that occurs.